Hi, good evening, friends. Hope you're all safe and well during these times. Welcome to today's webinar. Indian Business and Professional Council Kuwait welcomes all in one. We thank the Indian Ambassador to Kuwait, His Excellency Shri Sibi George, to be the patron of the Council. IBPC's objective is to connect the community through the best professional and industrial-related speakers, cultural events, picnics, and debates. Regrettably, normal platform of physical socializing is taking a break at the moment. For the past year and a half, virtual platforms have been the only way to connect. And I must say that our members and the community, Indian community, has been very encouraging and participating in all our activities always. The pandemic has hit us hard in different ways, which has affected the lives of lots of people with different magnitudes. IBPC has been at the forefront of reaching out and helping out to our fellow Indians on behest of the Indian Embassy whenever the ambassador has asked us to. This could not have been done without the support and the active participation, again, of our esteemed members, the Indian community at large, and several Indian organizations functioning in Kuwait, and the local benevolent Kuwaiti friends of the Indian community. IBPC's role is to provide a platform to engage the locals in Kuwait and the Indian diaspora in an effort to improve relations and business activity. However, during these challenging times, which has caused havoc and chaos, we have learned to adapt and deliver what is the need of the hour, and we are grateful for this opportunity. Now I request Kaiser, my colleague, to share a brief introduction of our most respected keynote speakers this evening. The session would be followed by question and answers. Kindly type in your questions and we shall gladly moderate for the audience. Kindly switch off your mobile phones, please, or put it on silent. And please sit back and have a pleasant webinar for the next hour. Thank you. Over to you, Kaiser.
Thank you, Choji. First and foremost, good evening and welcome all. Though Mr. Mohandas Pai needs no introduction, but as a protocol, I would like to introduce him formally. He's told me to keep it short, but short would probably mean a page or two. I'll really try to keep it as short as possible. Over a career spanning 37 years, Mr. Mohandas Pai has served in the areas of finance, accounting, information technology, human resource, education, corporate governance, social impact, innovation, etc., etc. Mr. Mohan is currently the chairman of RN Capital, chairman of Manipal Global Education, member of boards of Havel India and Institute of Public Enterprises, member of board of governors of National Investment and Infrastructure Fund, again, etc., etc. He was awarded the Padma Shri Award by the President of India in 2015 and the Karnataka Rajyotsava Award in 2008. Mr. Mohan has previously been a board member and CFO of Infosys over a span of 17 years, an investment committee member for SIDBI India Aspiration Fund. He has been a board member of SEBI and National Board, NSE, etc. Of course, a lot more to his cap. Mr. Mohan holds a bachelor's degree in commerce as a university rank holder from St. Joseph's College of Commerce, Bangalore, a bachelor's degree in law from Bangalore University, and is a fellow member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India as an All India rank holder. He is based in Bangalore, India. Now, without much ado, may I kindly request and invite Mr. Mohandas Pai to deliver his talk and enlighten us with today's topic, India, a startup nation. Over to you, Mr. Pai.
Folks, thank you very much for inviting me. I'm very happy to be here to talk to you about a subject which all of you will be happy to know and to learn, because what we are seeing in India in technology is something that I have not seen myself, despite being in technology for the last nearly 30 years. We are seeing an explosive growth. We're seeing a new generation of entrepreneurs come up. We're seeing enormous amount of capital come in, etc. Toji, can you play the presentation? So my presentation is titled India, a Startup Nation, and India is getting transformed through Digital India. I think this slide is, yeah, next. This slide is extremely important for us to understand what is happening globally. 250 years ago, a very big event took place which changed the course of history. Till then, China, India made up the largest part of the world's GDP. They were the richest countries because they had a very large population, extremely skilled. They were large export houses because of the skill, ability of their people. They were in global trade, and the Europeans were trading, robbing South America, killing the Incas to get the gold and silver, and they built up capital. Suddenly, 250 years ago, the steam engine was invented in Great Britain, and thus set off the Industrial Revolution. The Industrial Revolution dramatically changed the global landscape, primarily because machines could now do the work of a lot of people. There was standardization of production, lowering of costs, etc., and great riches and very, very high growth. There's a mass migration from the rural areas to the urban areas, much exploitation of labor, and the growth of the capitalist economy. So between 1800 to 1900, Europe grew to be the richest part of the world. Of course, later there were the two great wars, etc. Then after the Second World War, decolonization, and Europe started colonizing to get raw material for the Industrial Revolution, and they started dominating the world, and Asia declined enormously in just about 100 years. Now, the world is in the midst of the end of the Industrial Revolution with the supply chain created through the Industrial Revolution. We live in a world where the Industrial Revolution supply chain exists, which is changing now. It is because the Industrial Revolution built the supply chain to connect consumers to markets. But there were production units in many countries. There was shipping, transportation, retail, wholesale. There were exports, import, banks, warehouses, etc. And consumers were connected to producers through this supply chain. And the supply chain meant that you had to have a physical existence to meet the consumers. And the only way you could grow is to use the supply chain. And the people who control the supply chain made most of the money. They could ask producers to compete, but they had the customers. 20 years ago, something happened which changed this. And that is the start of the internet. Because the internet created a platform where consumers and producers could come together. And that meant that you could reach out to anybody in the world because you are on the same platform, synchronously or asynchronously, at a time of your choosing. And consumers had the ability to make choices and to choose products all around the world. Now, how big is this network? And anybody join the network will obviously get the power of the network. Out of 7.83 billion people in the planet, today, we probably have nearly 6 billion mobile phones, 5 billion people are on the internet, and 4.5 billion on social media. The world has changed. The digital revolution has come upon us. And in the COVID times, because of the lockdown, suddenly there's been an explosion of the digital world. And that is the world that we live in today. And that's going to dramatically change everything that we see. Next slide, please. The early movers now dominate the world. If you look at the top 10 most valuable companies, barring Berkshire Hathaway and Saudi Aramco, all of them are digital companies. There is no manufacturing company. There is no bank. So they're all gone down. And Apple is today $2.5 trillion. Amazon is $2 trillion. And Microsoft is $2 trillion. $2 trillion is more than the GDP of all countries except the top maybe 6, 7. And the new normal is global tech conglomerates. We're seeing the rise of tech conglomerates and monopolies. Apple has created its own system in iOS whereby 2 billion people are on its network, and Apple controls the network, earns $25, $30 billion a quarter. And then you've got Alphabet, Google, which earns $15, $16 billion, which has got another $2 billion people on Android system. And Amazon is getting its own system, running the largest cloud architecture in the world. And all of them have created their own kind of business, music, App Store for Apple, and Alphabet has got Google Maps, it's got Google Search, etc. And Amazon has got its e-commerce, Alexa, etc. And they're collecting an enormous amount of data. All of us have become piece of data, and our minds can be controlled by these global monopolies. For example, when you Google to search for anything, Google sends you what it wants you to see, not what you want to see. We can't trust people like Google anymore because Google is getting manipulated by people who pay more money. Everything has become mercenary in the digital world, but they are global monopolies and the power seems unstoppable because countries just don't know how to counter their power. Next. Now they're all becoming expansion monopolies, new monopolies, and one trillion companies will build on data advantages. And this is something that all of us have to be careful. In 1949, the United Nations adopted the Universal Declaration of Human Rights to make sure that all humans on the planet get their rights. Today, we need the Universal Declaration of Digital Rights to make sure our digital rights are protected. Our data should be protected. Our nation should have sovereignty over the data. We should have grievance redressal. Our data should be stored in the country where we reside, not far away. And we should have access to courts. And all that is not there right now because most governments don't understand the power of data. And India is transformed too. Out of 1.39 billion people, 1.2 billion mobile phones, 1 billion unique numbers, 750 million people on the internet. If somebody tells you India is number 35, number 40 in digital usage, just laugh at them. Because apart from China, which has got 900 million people on the internet, India has 750 million people. You can't compare a Singapore with 5 million people with India with 1.39 billion people. You can compare Singapore with a city like Bangalore, which has 11 million people. So the world underestimates India. You can see here why it's happened. The price of data is very low in India because of Jio. Jio gives you unlimited amount of data per month at nearly $1.50 a month. $1.50 a month, not a day. And you can see here how data costs are very high. Even in the Middle East, the data costs are very, very high compared to what's in India. Wireless broadband subscribers and data usage has gone up. Today, Indians consume 16.5 GB of data per month on an average. 16.5 GB is very, very high. And India faces among the top countries in the use of the internet, social media, music streaming, etc. You can see the time spent here. Yes, maybe you can accuse the Indians of having more free time, but then free time is good, right? What are you going to do with all the money that you earn if you don't have the time to spend that money, especially for all the rich people in Kuwait? Now, e-commerce penetration in India is expected to be much faster than the US because there's rapidity in growth. There are many e-commerce companies. We have Flipkart, which is taken over by Walmart. We have Reliance Jio. We have Amazon, and we have a multitude of smaller companies. But India is a very unique country because India is a producer of apps and a consumer of apps. There are only three large countries, which are both United States, India, and China. And India accounts for now 12% of global app downloads. Rise in first-time shoppers during COVID. You can see here the kind of percentage rises. So COVID has changed everything because when COVID happened, about 50% of India's population shifted overnight to the digital world. You could get e-commerce, stay at home and order goods and services. You could do banking easily, get health to video, etc. Children could get education through Baiju and others. And you could get entertainment to all the OTT platforms. Everything that you wanted was available in an app at the touch of a click of an app on your mobile. And you can see the increased app usage here. These numbers are very, very large. And unless you are living in a large country like India, it has no meaning because the numbers you don't understand. And India's internet economy is a $180 billion opportunity. And this old data, I think, right now it could be a $500 billion opportunity. And the startup system will create a $10 trillion economy for India. And the Indian startup system is enormous. Indian startup system is third largest in the world. 55,000 startups who created about $400 billion of value. The $315 billion is an old number. Right now it's around $400 billion. And let me tell you, I stay in India. I worked in technology since 1994, and I'm surprised at the speed and the rapidity of change in this country, in the internet economy, in the digital world. And this is built on top of the Indian IT service industry. India is the largest exporter of software services, 170 billion. And this year, I'm told India will export more software than Saudi Arabia exporting oil, the largest world exporter. Total digital revenue, total IT revenues, India is $225 billion this year. 5 million people are employed. About 600,000 people are going to be hired this year, including 400,000 engineers. Of the top 10 software service companies, the market value in the world, 5 are Indian. Of the top 5 software service market value, 3 are Indian. TCS and Accenture vie for number 1. And then you got Infosys, you got Cognizant, and you got IBM Global Services among the top 5. Of the 2.8 million employees in the top 10, 2 million are Indians. The United States has 6 million people in software. 1 million are there legitimately through H-1B and green cards. Out of this 5 million in India, 2.5 million work for American companies. Out of 8.5 million working for American companies, 3.5 million are Indians. 60% of global outsourcing comes to India. And the next 2 or 3 years, this is going to grow in double digits every single year. And you can see the numbers in the IT service companies value, right? Infosys has become a $100 billion company. TCS is $180, $200 billion. The numbers are large. I mean, look at startups. By 2025, India will have more than 100,000 startups. We get 5,000 to 6,000 startups every year now, employing 3.25 million people. They employ 1.5 million people right now. We'll get 150, $200 billion of capital coming in from January 21 to December 25. This year, we already got 22 billion, and we'll possibly end with 25 to 30 billion by the end of the year. And we'll have about 200 unicorns by 2025. We have 74 unicorns right now. Startups got $70 billion of capital from 14 to 20. Sadly, only 10% is Indian capital. Everybody from the world is coming here. We shut out China. We banned their apps, and there's good news because the Chinese had occupied 62% of the digital territory. Today, every country should defend its physical boundaries and digital boundaries too. And the Chinese have squatted. Thankfully, Prime Minister Modi kicked them out. And that's good news. They're pouring in capital to capture India. And now India will not accept Chinese capital. China is a very hostile hegemon to India at this point of time globally. India has built an enviable digital infrastructure. And of course, 67% of all active startups are in Bangalore, Mumbai, and Delhi. And Bangalore is the heart of this entire digital revolution. Out of 11 million people in Bangalore, 22 million work in IT companies. Bangalore's per capita income is $10,000, a $120 billion GDP economy. And this year, we already got $10 billion of capital coming in so far out of the $22 billion that India got. India has got 74 unicorns right now, and they created more than $250 billion of value. And by 2025, we'll have, 200 unicorns. These are all old numbers, and you can see the number of companies. Licious just became a unicorn about 2 weeks ago. They're one of our companies, and you'll be happy to know that my firm, Arin Capital, gave the first check to Baiju. We gave 9 million to Baiju at 20 million free. That's the first check in 2012. Today, Baiju is worth $18 billion. We gave the first check to Licious 5 years ago at $1.5 million free, and Licious is now worth $1 billion. And Indians are creating unicorns globally. We got 4.2 million Indians in the United States out of 320 million population. They already created 67 unicorns out of the 500 unicorns in the United States. So Indians globally are doing very well. I don't know the situation in the Middle East or in Kuwait, but in the United States, there's a huge amount of technology and Indians at the heart of it. India's 10 more valuable unicorns are worth about nearly $150 billion. You know, the Zomato is worth $14 billion, did an IPO. Flipkart is today about 35. Baiju has gone to 18. Paytm is pricing at 20 billion in their IPO now. Oyo is there, and Zoho. I mean, these are all numbers that keep going up every week. In the first half of the year, 16 unicorns. Right now, for this year, we already have 34 unicorns. We'll end up with 40 unicorns. And these unicorns are across all sectors of the economy, in financial services, in edtech, in social commerce, in e-pharmacy, etc. We believe that the valuation of $400 billion today will grow to $1 trillion by 2025. So by 2025, our IT service companies and listed startups will be worth $1 billion. Right now, they're about $450 billion, I think. And the unlisted companies like startups will be worth $1 trillion. So by 2025, we'll have 2 trillion of digital value of digital companies in the country. And they're across all kinds of industries, enterprise tech. These are for big enterprises like you, across many, many companies. You can see the new age companies. For example, a company called Darwinbox has got 600 enterprise clients in HR tech cloud, SaaS cloud. They have been rated to be better than SAP are Oracle in HR. If people are looking at HR for any of your enterprises, look at Darwin Box. It is in the cloud, very high tech, very light, and easy to use. Deep tech, a lot of deep tech companies in Internet of Things, IoT, wearable technology, 3D printing, using AI, machine learning, aviation, augmented reality, AR, VR, etc. You can see these companies, electric vehicle companies, chip design companies, you got health tech companies, you got robotic companies, all kind of companies are there. And India is growing at the deep tech hub, AI, IoT, all the things that you read in the media, the companies they're still small, but they're growing at a very, very rapid rate. And tech solutions are creating millions of jobs. For example, Swiggy, Ola, Meesho are creating millions of jobs for many, many people, paying them a decent wage all across India. These are some of the most active funds. We got our fund here, 314 Capital, and this is by Your Story, which is a digital journal in Bangalore, and they get data for all of them. India is going to go from data poor to data rich by 2025, and this is happening at a very rapid pace because enormous amount of data is being generated every year through social commerce, payments, paperless, digital, everything that you see. And the great degree of innovation is happening in this country. And when we have all this data, we're going to use AI in a much, much bigger way. There are only 3 or 4 countries which are using AI to maximum extent: United States, China, India, and possibly maybe Germany or UK. And in leap in data, the global COVID was an inflection point, and you got enormous amount of increase in data because of COVID. And look at this. We have something called UPI, Unified Payment Interface, which is an app by which you can transfer money. It is run by the National Payment Corporation of India. It's free to use up to 2 lakh rupees. Now I think it'll go to 5 lakh rupees. And we had 3.2 billion transactions happen last month. So you can transfer money from one bank to another in an app in 30 seconds without any charges. And they did $80 billion of transaction last month. So it's already at a run rate of $1 trillion this year. And we're getting a lot of neobanks. Neobank is an app which sits on top of your bank account. It allows you to operate a bank account. We all know that banking software came up to meet regulatory requirements and accounting requirements of banks. They're all software which is inside out. That means designed for the bank and the regulator, not for the consumers. Whereas the neobanks are designed from the consumer point of view, outside in. So this app sits on top of the regular bank technologies, and you can easily work on multiple bank accounts, transfer money, do accounting, etc. And this is a big boon. Companies like Jupiter and Open are soon going to be unicorns, maybe this year, early next year. And this also shows you content consumption, how much content people are using. 96% of all people who are on the internet see videos. Don't ask me what kind of videos they see. They got a lot of action on Netflix, OTT, Hotstar, and Prime, and all kind of stuff. So I think everybody is watching movies at home now, and it's a very exciting period for people who got entertainment at the fingertips. Content consumption explodes, some kind of data for you. In every part of the internet, India will be right there. Online gaming has taken off. We got fantasy games, real money games, casual game, all kind of games. I think one of our companies, Dream 11, is maybe what $10 billion. There's talk of it being what $10 billion or whatever it is, very, very large amount. But anyway, we got a lot of the people here, and they're all growing. In the next 3-4 years, they're going to be explosive outburst of growth. And you may be surprised to know that today the largest number of viewers in the net are for Twitch. Twitch is a app through which you can watch people playing games. You don't play the game, but you watch people playing games. Like you go to a movie theater, and more people are doing that than people actually playing games. It's amazing. Loco is a Indian consolidator of gaming apps, and I think that they're very good in game streaming. EdTech, you know the story. Baiju is the most valuable EdTech company in the world. We got about 4 or 5 unicorns in EdTech. They raised enormous amount of money this year itself across test preparation, out of school, in school, certification, everything. There are a lot of them coming up. There are 4,450 EdTech companies, out of which 250 are there of any reasonable size. In the health tech space, you've got e-pharmacy, telemedicine, diagnostic, etc. And we're seeing an enormous amount of innovation coming up there. And the systems are changing very fast. So today on an app, you can track your health, you can get all the data, you can consult your doctor, you can buy your medicine, you can do many tests which do not require a physical presence, etc. And this has enormously helped many people access healthcare. But this is the important slide for us to understand the speed of change. The internet took 7 years to get 50 million users. Pokemon took 19 days. Arogya Setu has taken 13 days to get 50 million. And Arogya Setu today has, I think, 250 million users. And it's happening in India. And Arogya Setu was designed and built by Indians for Indians. And we are developing something called the National Health Stack. This is Prime Minister's Modi Ayushman Bharat program. Already 25 million Indians have benefited from free operations. It has already covered 210 million people, 210 million people through the health insurance program, and will help connect 500 million people possibly in the next 2.5 to 3 years. And it's all been built in India. Groceries, the B2C, B2C verticals, B2B, and large companies, edtech companies, and there are specialists in verticals, in food and everything else. E-grocery category doing big business during COVID. COVID was really the inflection point when many people came together and started using them, and I saw explosive growth. And clean mobility is another big area. India sells 22 million two-wheelers a year, out of which possibly 60% will be electric two-wheelers by 2025. Ola has created a very, very large EV manufacturing plant near Bangalore for 1 million capacity. And Bhavish Agarwal says that he's planning to expand it to 10 million by 2025. So we are seeing this kind of rapid innovation. You got people like Ather who designed it ground up, very sophisticated two-wheelers. You got Yulu, which dominates Bangalore for last mile connectivity using EVs. And they use AI and machine learning to create network maps of Bangalore to know where to place the vehicles, where to do things. So I want to end by saying India is a startup nation. We are on the cusp of extremely rapid change. Some of the best innovation in the world is happening in India. Capital is pouring in. The Reserve Bank of India has got $640 billion of reserves. And the innovation potential here is enormous. We got very large human capital. We got great entrepreneurs, capital coming in from around the world. And we are seeing this explosive growth. And all this will make India more efficient, grow India much faster, give consumers choices, and help us grow to be a $10 trillion economy by 2031, 2032. We're expecting to be 10 trillion by 2030, but COVID will push it forward maybe 1.5 to 2 years. Thank you very much, and I'll be very happy to answer your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Pai. That was quite a presentation at the speed of internet. Like I had mentioned earlier, we were, like you were sitting in the thick of it, and we are actually frogs around a pond. It takes, I think, a lot of change. We hope and we pray that there is, change in this area as well, so that we can also move at some speed. Definitely not the speed of what India is moving, but at some speed. So I'll request all our audience to, anybody has questions, please type it in and I can moderate for you. Thank you.
I think there's a question from Mr. Ramesh Khanna.
Has it shown up here? I can't see it.
Yeah.
You can.
It says what is your view on cryptocurrencies and why is it being promoted extensively in India through advertisements? Even NDTV has a regular feature on this subject. Is it safe for a common man? Is it safe for a common India to be enticed into it? A common man.
Well, the volatility in cryptocurrency is very high, especially in the Bitcoins using Ethereum and others. And today we see some film stars creating their own coins for what reason, I don't know. You see, cryptocurrency is built on blockchain technology. And certainly the blockchain technology is a great innovation because it links two people together, and this data is very secure. It can be tracked thoroughly. But when you use something called a Bitcoin, which is mined or created digitally to make for payments, you run into some challenges because these are not backed by any legal right like currency is by the central banks. So most central banks in the world are now coming around to say that cryptocurrency cannot be used for payments. It's very volatile. It's a store of value, but value keeps going up and down. It can be a means of exchange and a unit of accounting. You know what the definition of money is. So there is a challenge. But nevertheless, today crypto has become an asset class. It's got a value of maybe $1.5 to $2 trillion, if I'm right, and is going bigger and bigger. And why are more people coming? More people are attracted because of volatility and the chance to make money. They suddenly tell you it's gone up 100 times in 5 years, 30 times in 3 years, blah, blah, blah. And you can easily buy, and you can send money, and you can buy a crypto, get credited to your account overseas. The money will remain in India, and you can sell it tomorrow and they sell it back to you. And a lot of these portals have come up with cryptocurrency, hoping to give you some assets, and people want to make money. And they see the value going up because enormous amount of capital from the West is coming in. China has now clamped down on this because they said it's speculation. So I don't want to advise you whether you should buy it or do whatever it is, except to say that the original intent of cryptocurrency was to be a currency, an alternate to paper money or fiat money. But that is going by. It has become an asset class by itself. And it is backed by scarcity and not by any transferable asset like gold, etc. Gold is an asset class. Real estate is an asset class. And the securities are an asset class. And all of them have got an intrinsic value attached to it. And the intrinsic value attached to a Bitcoin is possibly the scarcity value, because there's a limit to how much can be produced. So if more and more people go behind it and keep buying, supply and demand dictate that prices go up. And many people have taken deep positions and become billionaires. It's a very complex issue. So I would urge you to be very careful what you do.
Yeah.
Okay. We have another question from Mr. Shetty. He says, what will be the impact of startup in healthcare industry? I think you already.
Well, I think healthcare is getting changed dramatically, and healthcare is getting deconstructed. For example, through startups, you can create an IoT, you can create an ICU layer in your house. You can have an IoT bed with a lot of sensors through a company called Dozy, which will capture all your vitals and send the signals to a mobile app somewhere elsewhere. So if you have an old parent who's staying at home, all the data about their health condition can come to you in Kuwait and know exactly what to do, and they can link with the doctor. And then there is a pharmacy by which you get a medicine on an app delivered to your house at very discounted prices. You don't have to go out. And then there are video consultancy with the doctor of your choice. Then you can shop on the internet to get a second opinion. Then you can shop on the internet to go to any hospital of your choice and understand how much they're going to charge you. And then you can also make sure that some of your examination can be done virtually. For example, people can use a device to look into your eye, and through the eye, digitize it and find out whether you have any medical condition. So I think in every facet of work in healthcare, it is getting deconstructed, and it's all adding up to better value for money for people, better access to healthcare, and access to specialists all across the world and in India, and ultimately to creation of your medical records, which can easily be done. On top of that, you've got AI. For example, Dozy is a company which has got data about the heartbeats of maybe 35, 40,000 people over extended periods of time. And using that, they're able to predict whether you're going to have a heart attack maybe 1 or 2 months down the line. Why? Because the data that is coming in is collated together. And by seeing the patterns of the data, you can find out what happens today can likely lead to something happening 2 or 3 months down the line. So a lot of innovation is happening, and startups are leading the charge because everything is getting digitized.
Thank you. Another question is, what is the potential in digitizing agriculture?
Well, I think if you look at agriculture, the biggest challenge farmers have today is access to markets. Because farmers grow, they don't know where the market is. They don't have access to supply chain. They don't have access to market. Yes, they know the prices that is happening elsewhere, but they're not able to get payments if they're not linked. So today, agri-tech companies are coming up. There are 1,200 of them, maybe 150 are funded. They're linking farmers to market. So a farmer can download the app, use the app, and say that I'm going to sell you 200 kgs of potatoes tomorrow. You get a bid from somewhere and you accept the bid. Then the agri-tech company comes to your farm, picks it up, takes it, and gives them money the next day. Mm-hmm. So now that kind of problem is being solved. So a lot of agri-techs are coming up, giving information to farmers about the environment, when to water the plant, etc. Drones are being used to go across the field, capture all the images, and tell you what is happening in each part, so you don't have to go to many parts. Drones are now putting pesticides and spraying all over the place, and you get access to weather data, and you get access to prices. So these companies are all small, maybe about 3,000 crores per month is being sold through agri-tech companies, that should go up to 10,000 crores in the next 12, 15 months. So a lot of companies have come up, and I think that's getting revolutionized too.
Right. I have a question myself. These companies, like you mentioned about valuations, right? So, the one question we are still in the business of, moving boxes. We import the box, we store it, we sell, how are these companies making money? Because when you see their profit and loss, they're a bit of a jam, right?
Joji, you are old world. You
Correct.
believe there's something called a profit and loss and a cash flow. And all these people believe that they're disrupting the industry and they'll be able to grow revenues later, but they're able to do a lot of business and create a network. And the power of network is going to make sure that you're going to dominate the market and become a digital monopoly. Many of them believe that winners take all, right? Because why? It becomes easy to do business digitally. You get the information, you can look at patterns, you can get financing, you can have a ease of transaction, etc. And that's why they're growing. So they're being measured by different metrics at this point of time. And that happens every time there's an innovation. When electricity came up, the electricity companies never made money. When the railways came up, they were all building network. They didn't make money. Everybody poured capital, right? When the internet companies came, there was a boom and everybody poured money. And the reason is that a lot of capital, there's disruptive capital, which looks at an innovation, funds it to grow fast. And all these innovators grow in 2 years what ordinarily people grow in 10 years, because it's easy for them to expand and they acquire capital. And capitalists come and drive up the valuation, and then they sell, give it to the insurance companies who are happy to earn a little bit and hold it for a long period of time. And they sell short all the traditional companies. For example, E.ON, which is a power company in Germany, I think Germany or Europe, is quoting at a very low value. And all these solar companies which generate power are quoting a very high valuation. So capital is moving from the traditional companies to those companies. Look at Tesla. I mean, Tesla is so small. It's so small compared to Volkswagen, compared to anybody else. But $700, $800 billion makes about 250,000 cars a quarter, right? And Toyota makes 10 million cars a quarter, makes much more money. But why are people betting on Tesla? Because they believe that electric vehicles are going to revolutionize, go and change everything else. And the capital markets always move ahead of reality. They find a trend, they buy that, and they take it up, and then they sell the other short. So today, smart investors are buying Tesla and shorting maybe Volkswagen or GM or whatever it is, and making money both sides. But that's the way the financial markets reward innovation. And that's the way it is. Even though I'm a chartered accountant, I do understand finance. I do know many things. I stopped trying to rationalize everything and just say, man, this is a big trend. Go along with the trend and try to make money, and don't question why. Never look a gift horse in the mouth.
Fair. Thank you. We have one more question from Mr. Chinmaya, also a dear friend. He's asking, coming back to digital currency, it is being said that central banks are coming out with digital currencies. Can they replace the traditional currency notes completely, or can they coexist?
I think they'll coexist, because today, please remember, what you have in a bank account is a credit. It's called money. Then you can transfer the money from one account to another. That also is virtual, right? So if you hold stocks, it is all virtual because there's nothing physical. It's an entry in a book. There are a lot of things that have become virtual because of digitization, and that's going to continue. So the central banks are not going to issue currency. They'll give you a digital currency, which has the characteristics of currency, except it doesn't have a physical form, and you'll not be able to take that and go to a central bank and exchange.
Right.
Now, if you look at a currency note in any part of the world, it says, I promise to pay the bearer the sum of rupees dash, maybe $1, $2, etc. What is that? It's a promissory note signed by the central bank. And most central bank acts as agents of the sovereign. The government of the day is the sovereign. It has got something called legal tender, and it says that the banks will have promissory note as agents of the sovereign. And anytime you want, and some promissory notes can be used for settlement of debts. And anytime you want something called legal tender, the promise to pay the sum of so-and-so, you can go to the bank and take a coin or a $1 note, and that is it. And that you can't refuse. For example, the US was the gold standard. What did he say? that gold and dollar were fixed, and anytime you take the dollar, you go to the Federal Reserve, they have to get you so much of gold, right? Nixon abolished that, right? It's the gold standard. And similarly, today there's a legal tender. So when you have a digital currency, you won't be able to exchange it for something else. It will remain digital. And also, the digital currency can be used for a certain purpose. People are talking about currency which is specific to the use. For example, if you take a digital currency and say, I want to pay taxes, it has to be used only for taxes, cannot be used for something else. So central banks are also toying with it because they want to counter the cryptocurrencies and everything else and use for payments. So I think it'll be a good thing. It'll reduce the currency notes in circulation. It'll stop the frauds. It'll stop fake notes coming in, and they'll know exactly how much notes they have. For example, do you really believe that the Federal Reserve knows exactly how much dollar notes are circulating around the world? They don't know. I don't think they know. They don't even know how much is legit, how much is illegit, right? They don't know who printed it, what happened, and nobody cares because, it still got value. So I think digital currency will rid traditional currency of all the ills and make it trackable.
Right. We have one more question from this another, I don't know the name, but it says he's asking, despite a significant rise in digital payments, many Indian consumers still rely on cash transactions. And when, according to you, will the shift happen?
No, the shift will happen very slowly because remember, you and I are a generation who still want to have cash in our pockets.
Correct.
Even though we have credit cards, we got everything, we still keep cash. Young people don't carry cash anymore. They don't even carry a wallet. Everything is there on the mobile, right? So it depends on when you entered, you become a consumer, when you had money, etc. Because habits take time to change. And if you want to see the impact of habit change, look at young person below the age of 25. Look at people below the age of 18. You'll find they all do things but digital payment. They don't carry currency. They pay on their mobile. They don't even carry a credit card, or they carry a virtual credit card, right? So the habits have changed. So it takes time for the whole world to go. But digital payments in India and globally are going at a much, much faster rate. You'll be happy to know that the checks, people don't write checks anymore. They do all digital transfers of money. So checkbook usage has come down. Settlement by check has come down in India, in all parts of the world, and checks are dying as a result. Currency in transactions also dying. People are using currency to store cash at home, but not using it for too many payments because they use digital thing. And today, digital payments are growing much faster than credit cards, right? But is the world going to be fully digital? No, it's going to take a long time, 20, 25, 30, 40 years, because people are not going to change. So I think we are on the cusp of great change, but we're still at the beginning of the change.
Fair. Okay, we have another friend asking, what will be the impact on cryptocurrency on terrorism, smuggling, grey market, fraud, etc.?
Yeah, you know it as well as I do, right? Because crypto has anonymity.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
Nobody knows who wants it, what is one. So I'm sure all the big terrorists and everybody who want to keep money are keeping the money in crypto. And you can't track it, don't know where it is, right? And they can always use it. It belongs to nobody, belongs to everybody. So it is a very, very unique thing. And you know what is happening. I'm sure every finance person is able to guess what is happening and where it is.
Fair. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Pai. I think we have come to the end of our questions for this evening, and really lovely to have you as our guest speaker today. Really nice. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, folks. Enjoyed talking to all of
Thank
you.
you.
Wish you all the best. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you
Good
very
evening. Have a
much.
good evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.